Thank you so much for being on the podcast, David. This is the first episode, and I'm making it the first episode because you gave me this idea. So it's one shot, one camera, and we're talking about our one shot at life. So firstly, I want to start with you. Tell me about you, your journey. You've done a lot of things. You've been in film, now you're building a curiosity-based business. Maybe in 1 to 2 sentences, tell us what you're doing now, and then we'll get into where you started.
Sure. Now I'm trying to help people discover themselves through exploring life. Q offers life experiences on demand, and at the core of that is this idea of curiosity and a sense that developing your curiosity, which anyone can do, the more you develop it, the more you're asking questions of yourself and the world around you and people. And with that comes growth. And if you can develop that curiosity and you can attach it to your everyday life, it enables you to grow consistently. And as you're learning and growing consistently, you feel a sense of joy consistently. And everything, even the hard moments, become valuable moments and moments that you almost look forward to because you see that there's so much there on offer if you're just paying attention and if you're just asking the right questions. And so for me, the inspiration for Q is this idea that most of what we know we learn from experiences in other people. More things we do, more people we meet, more we learn, more we grow. But most people don't do new things or meet new people. So that's my ambition, is to create access to experiences that people can learn and grow from and enjoy, and at the same time develop these fundamental life skills like curiosity and problem solving, adaptability, effective communication.
Right. Have you always been as curious as you are now?
No. I've always been curious. From a very young age, I was very curious about the world. I had this sense through movies and TV series, which is what inspired me, that if I were to realize my potential, if I were to have the best experience, it was fundamental for me to get out and see as much of the world as possible. So I was very curious, and I didn't have those words back then, but it was just this sense of like, this isn't it. Like, I need to go out and explore, and like, that's my path. And so I was always very, very curious about people, about experiences. Money's never driven me. I've turned down money many times for the curiosity of like, what is this gonna offer me? It's something brand new. But I've not been this curious, like as curious. It is something that I have developed specifically over the last 10, maybe 20 years, where I just continue to just ask myself more and more questions. And as I began to understand more about myself and the world and the way it functions and others, I just got more and more curious, and it posed more questions. And a few years ago, I really started to see the power of curiosity, and also at the same time kind of started to feel that as a species, our curiosity was diminishing by proxy of the experience that's been put on us in this moment. And it's very hard to be curious, and especially when you're day-to-day life, when you're doing the same thing again and again, I think it's hard for people to see that there can be value in these things that happen every day. But my gosh, can there be so much? And it's actually in those moments, if you're asking questions in those moments, that you can really add on and add on and add on and add on, and get to a point where you're just so curious, which is what I've deliberately cultivated in myself, that I'm just so curious that every part of my life is consistently getting better.
So was there an impetus, was there a day where you were like, you realized this is what I need to do, I need to work on being more curious? Was there a time? Is that like a definitive time in your life, or is that something that it was so natural that it just happened?
I would argue it's the same as most progression in my life, which is bit by bit. There's no one moment for it, especially with curiosity. It's a habit you have to build, and you just, because I would decide, hey, I want to be 50% more curious, that doesn't happen overnight. You have to practice doing it. It's like driving a car. You don't just get in and drive. You have to practice. And it's the same with everything in life. In fact, that's I would argue, the key to life. To get good at anything, you just need to practice. That's it. You just practice. And so curiosity for me has been a practice. and I've discovered it in many different ways and through many different formats and ideas, and it just naturally evolved in me. But there was a point, and it was after I started really developing Q, that I kind of put a name to it and really understood how my brain worked and why I was able to move fast, and efficiently and effectively and with quality, because I was always just like, how can this be better? How can I be better? How can I do more? So it's gradual.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, being that you're building a curiosity-based business now and trying to influence lives of others by improving their curiosity, did you think you would be where you are today here in Buffalo, New York? You have an accent, you're not from here, you're working on film, I know that, but for the audience, tell us a little bit about your journey. Did you think you were going to be here?
In Buffalo specifically?
Yeah.
I visited Buffalo a few years ago for the first time, and it was just for a week. And when I arrived in this city and I'd been here for a little bit, I said to my partner at the time that I just felt there was something going on here. And I felt that I was going to spend more time here. There was no intention to. Went back to Los Angeles, or maybe Hawaii at the time I was living. And from Hawaii, went back to LA. And when I was in LA, I didn't want to be. I'd been there for 8 years, and wasn't a city. I didn't enjoy it. It just felt there was no real sense of community in LA. Like a genuine sense of community, of people really caring about other people. It was very much the opposite, and a lot of self-serving. And not to say there wasn't wonderful people there, because there of course is.
Right.
But the general sense and the tone of the city is not that. And coming here in Buffalo, that was one of the things I noticed most. So in that time in LA, though, we were talking about where we would go. We didn't want to be there. We just wanted to be somewhere more in a community, more peaceful, where we could work on our projects and our ambitions. And makes us from Buffalo. And so we talked about it, and we just said, what we really want is to live on a farm and just be quiet. And amazingly, she looked on Zillow, and there was a house on a farm for rent.
Wow.
And we kind of beat out a couple of people to get it. And a month later, drove across the country with the cat and a dog, and moved into this house on a farm, which was a dream, and allowed me the space to do exactly what I hoped to do, which was to discover Q, which I discovered just 2 months after moving to Buffalo. I'd been working on it for many years, really, but I finally had the impetus for the idea a couple of months after moving here. So, was I planning to be here? Did I know I'd be here? No, but in a sense, spiritually, I was always going to be here. As soon as there was a point last year, at the beginning of last year, where I had this moment where I could stay, or I could have gone to England, or I could have gone anywhere else. And I am keen to travel a lot. I like to travel, but after a lot of reflection, it was like, Buffalo I'm already here. I love being here. I love the community here. I love the potential here. And it's really the perfect place for me to build Q as well. It's been ideal for that. And so it was here's the place. And it was a great decision. And I have a wonderful home and a wonderful community I've built since then. And I just continue to grow in so many ways. And if I were doing what I'm doing now in LA or London or New York, there's no way I would be anywhere near where I'm at this point at all. So Buffalo is a blessing to me.
That's beautiful. You felt pulled to it. It sounds like you're a bit of a risk taker in my eyes. You're building a business. You were working in the film industry, which is a high stakes environment. Mm-hmm. Have you always been a risk taker? Have you always gone after things that you deem worthy of going after, right? I know there's lots of people who want to be in the film industry who have no idea where to start, so they give up before they even try to figure it out. So you're nodding your head here. Is that innate? Is that something that can be learned? Is that something that can be taught? Do you think your risk-taking was inherent? What are your thoughts there?
Product of experience, I'm sure, but also partly innate, and definitely a combination of nature and nurture. But again, from a young age, I just had my sights set on an idea, and I didn't really know what it was. But I had this strong pull, and my whole life I feel like I've been working on myself and Q and big questions. And So there were many points along the way where I took a lot of risks, and many times in my career where people have said to me, "You're making a mistake. You're doing the wrong thing," and I'm like, "I'm not, because I'm doing this for the right reasons for me." As I said before, money's never driven me, and there were many jobs I turned down over the years, big movies and big shows, just because I wanted to go and try something else and explore another part of myself, and just to try something like. I had taken a lot of risks, and I do like to take risks because that's really where you find out what you're truly made of. But like as a general philosophy for me, I'm always curious to understand how much I can do. I'm 40 and I've done a lot with my life, but I'm just getting started. And I've always had that sense. But I'm really lucky that right now, having so deliberately thought about it for so long. I'm just in this wonderful place where I understand what I'm capable of, and also how to continue to nurture that and evolve personally and professionally, and hopefully for a lot of people as time goes on to help them discover themselves in the same way that I have, and realize their potential, which is sad to see a lot of people don't realize their potential. And it does take risks, and it does take courage, and it does take listening to your gut and listening to yourself about what feels right. And I was always good at that. Peer pressure wasn't strong on me. And so there's a lot of resistance to my risk taking over the years. And sometimes they were right, by the way, in traditional senses. Right. But of course, I always looked at these things as opportunities to learn and grow. Even before I really understood that, the ideas of doing new things and meeting new people and new challenges was so appealing to me, because I just knew I would get so much out of it.
Can you tell me a time that a risk paid off for you and you had one of those moments where I can't believe this is happening?
Mm-hmm. Sure. I'll give you a great example of that. I worked in freelance movies and TVs for 10 years, traveled around the world, some of it in England, and then in 2017 I joined HBO. And I took a demotion to go to HBO, which is already a risk. But I took a demotion because at the time, they hadn't got streaming service yet. Netflix was blowing up, and it was I'd already pivoted to high-end television because I'd seen that movies were dying. And it was if you can deliver these high-end TV shows to people in their living room, kind of game over. This is really going to overwhelm things. And I saw HBO as the best production company in the world, which is the best TV. I'm I want to go and see what they do, how they navigate this moment, and what they build and how that kind of unravels. And so, but I got to HBO, took a demotion, but I was working with the head of production, which was amazing because I got to see everything. I got to be a part of everything and part of all the big conversations. And but after a year and a half, he left the company after 20 years, leaving me without a job. And they wanted to keep me, which I was super grateful for. And they offered me a promotion, and they said, "We can promote you to this, and this is what you'd be doing, and we want to keep you." And I thought about it for a bit, and I had nothing else lined up, and I was just it doesn't feel right. I don't want to work on this stuff. I really want to see this through with HBO, but to see what's going to happen here, just from a history perspective, because the whole industry was changing. Literally, I was in the eye of the storm, in an amazing place, and I didn't want to leave it, but I was this isn't it for me. And so I said no. I was that was a very big risk for me to say no. What else am I going to do? But then after some reflection and talking to a few folks, began to really look at what was happening in the industry and the company, and certain areas that were inevitably going to change, and we were going to need to create processes out of, create structure out of, and on a global scale to some extent. And we weren't. There just wasn't the resources, there weren't the bodies and the minds on those big things. And I just saw this big problem coming up that we were going to run into, that everyone was going to run into, by all the other studios, everything. And some of them were preparing, some were not. And I just saw this as an opportunity. And so I thought about it, and I said, and I laid out this new executive role and said, these are all the holes we need to plug and we need to plan for. I can do this under this new executive role, as well as kind of doing these things that interest me, kind of give me what I want, if you make me an executive. And fortunately they did.
That's
saw
awesome.
The merit in it, and it is, but it didn't actually end up as being the greatest thing for me, ironically, because it caused a lot of controversy in HBO because I had been there for a year, and was getting promoted to this role, and people have been there for years, and it's very slow to get promoted there. So it caused a lot of animosity. There's a lot of people who supported it, of course, but a lot of animosity.
Right.
And also just, I struggled a lot with like the social aspects of that kind of dynamic. It was very cliquey, very high schooly. It was very siloed, and again, there's a lot of history there, a lot of bureaucracy, and so it caused conflict. But anyway, I took that risk. I said no to that job, and then I kind of looked at it and turned it into something bigger and better, and that would serve not just me, but also the kind of the organization. And some of the work I did really did help prepare and kind of ease it along as the changes happened. So
That's awesome. One thing with taking risks is it's not easy, and we've talked about that. Practically, how do you do that day to day? How do you hold up? Maybe it is the yoga you've mentioned to me. What are the little things that allow you to take risk, that set yourself up so you're not completely falling on your face and failing entirely, right? Like there's very few full failures in life, but I'm just curious, what are some of those little things that you do to maintain a level head when you're taking these risks?
I would say the little things, to be honest, the practice. And again, this is like I took many risks over my life where I wasn't informed and I wasn't prepared to take that risk, and I paid the price for it, right? And I learned the lessons along the way. And so, but as each risk and every choice in my life, in fact, was made thereafter, I have the information from the previous one. And of course, you only have that if you're paying attention and you're reflecting and you're learning from it. And so for me, how do I do it? And how do I, like at this point, I've been doing it for my whole life. Like I was, even in my childhood, I was having to really problem solve some very adult problems from a very young age. And so I was like on that journey, and I just continued to just add on. And I think, again, I had this sense very young that to be adaptable and to be a problem solver are like just two amazingly important skills anyone can have. And of course, the only way to develop those things is through experience. So again, that's how I manage my risk. That's how I solve when it doesn't go right, and also leverage the success if it does, right? It's just from experience and practice. But also very much understanding, and this is a flaw I think in humans often, we all make mistakes, right? But so often people make mistakes and they blame themselves for it. Say, I should have done better. I should have known this. I should have. But why should they have known this? Why should they have known better? They literally have never experienced this before.
Right.
Yet there's this like self-beating up. And I realized that some years ago. I'm like, okay, yeah, I make mistakes because I don't know any better. Right? I haven't had this experience. I haven't learned it yet. I haven't seen it. Or maybe I haven't. I wasn't paying attention, by the way. But in that moment, like I'm always like, what is there to learn from this? And I don't. Like, a mistake is only a mistake if you don't learn from it. If you learn from it, it's a lesson, right? If it's just a mistake, that's a problem. That's not a good thing to be making mistake. It's make mistakes and then learn from it. That's the key, like bit by bit.
Right. I really like that point. It's only a mistake if you don't learn from it.
Oh yeah.
You've accomplished a lot in 40 years, as you've said. What are you working on now that you think is going to be the next accomplishment, whether or not it succeeds by, outside metrics? What does success look like to you currently?
I mean, Q for sure. The wonderful thing about Q for me is it's working already. Like, I mean, you've seen the community I'm building around it in Buffalo, and the curiosity, the excitement, and the desire to see it realized and to see it grow. Like, that's already success to me. I feel like the work I've done here in bringing people together and learning so much about people and vice versa, and helping them learn about me and others, that's already success to me. I already feel like I've done a lot in a really nice way, but I'm just getting started. Like, I want to help billions of people, really, and with very simple things, like really simple but fundamental life skills, especially as we dive into the AI and the digital realm, which we're already here, but it's only going to get deeper and deeper. For me, I think that the best skills people can learn are human skills. Right, that's going to be the differentiator in the future. If you can effectively communicate with people, if you can solve problems, you can be adaptable, right? You can be creative, you can be innovative, fundamental skills. And so for me, my ambition is to help people develop them. But of course, I don't want to develop them by teaching them or just making them watch a class or whatever. I want to help them develop them through actual experience, which is where we learn most stuff, right? It's a basic statistic. When you read or watch something, you retain like 10 or 15% of the information, but when you do something, it's like 50 to 75%.
Wow.
And so that, to me, again, going back to that philosophy earlier of like most people don't get out and do things and meet new people. I want to change that, because that's the most valuable thing you can do to develop the most valuable skills anyone can have today, let alone 10 years time. My gosh, if you can be human and not rely on AI, like that's an amazing skill to have. And so the more and more people I can help see that and help develop that through experience and fun and creative ideas and whatnot, that's all the success I'm looking for, is just to help more people realize their potential and develop their curiosity, of course.
And one belief that you have is that curiosity is a spectrum. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that works and how curiosity is a skill?
Absolutely. So 0 to 100 spectrum, right? Every single person on the planet is on that spectrum. If you're at the bottom of that spectrum, you're not asking many questions of yourself, of the world. You're probably in a job which you've been in for a long time. You're not looking for a promotion. You're not looking for new friends. You're not looking to try new things. And you're limited. You're in a fishbowl, right? And your ability to grow beyond what you currently have established is very, very difficult. On the other end of the spectrum, you may be someone like me who is insatiably curious and only getting more and more curious. And I grow it consistently every single day. I add value to my life. And if we think about our species as a whole, our entire species is on that spectrum. And I would argue that we're somewhere in the middle right now. And that's not a good place to be. We were so curious for so long and it drove us so far. But now, as a result of the world today and the constraints around us and the overwhelm of life, it's really hard to be curious, especially in your day-to-day life. And but everyone can develop their curiosity. Again, like you asked me earlier, if I've always been this curious, the answer is no. I'm sure I've always been more than 5. I've been on the top half of the spectrum, but I have continued to develop it over the years, and as a result of it, it's changed my life and continues to as I continue to finesse the skill of it more and work out how to utilize it more for me. And so, that's really at the core of Q, is to help people develop curiosity, because you can do that. That's just going to take you everywhere.
And what are you curious about the most right now?
Always myself and what I'm capable of and what I can do. But other people, I'm always insatiably curious about other people. I was asked in one of my interviews recently, what's the most surprising thing I found along the way of my, I've met and talked to thousands and thousands of people around the world over the years. And I think the surprise is, it's not really a surprise anymore, is everyone is so individual, right? There's no one in the world that has the experiences that you have and the insights that you have and the reflections and the ideas that you have. That's amazing. But at the same time, most people think that they are not unique and they're not special. But that's not true. Really, everyone has their personal perspective, their lens to offer. And so I'm always so curious about that, because when I do my interviews, my gosh, do I learn so much. And not just about that person, but about people. And I'm always looking for patterns as well. That's always been a key idea for me, is trying to look at swaths of information and experiences and try and pull out the patterns. And in doing so in my life, people always come back to the same simple things that they wish they could do more of, they wish they had more of, which is just quiet time with friends and family and community and being creative. It's almost 100% of people you ask about the things, but then of course you really get a sense of how people spend their time, and it's not that, and that's obviously a problem.
Right.
There's clearly an imbalance in life, and again, I'm trying to even grab some of those moments and add them into real life. I think we spend most of our lives working and doing these obligations and whatnot. If you look at those experiences with curiosity, they can become the most fun experiences. And you can go to work every day, even if you don't like your job, and oh my gosh, I can do this, I can add this value, I can just consume and add and experience more and more and more. Literally anything you do, especially with people, has so much value to offer you.
I really like this point. What is a good way to let's say someone is hating their job. They're tired of it for whatever reason.
Mhm.
How can they incorporate more curiosity into their day to day at their work where they're really not having a good time? And
I'll give one example, and I've been guilty of this myself. So when you're at a job, right? Let's say you're not enjoying it because these things happen every day. For example, your job is to solve a certain problem, and every day, 2, 3, 4 people come to you and they say, "I have this problem. I need you to solve today," as you always do. And every time someone comes to you, you're like, "Oh, I've got to solve this problem again." But you're doing that every day, even though you know it's coming, right? You're conscious. You know you're going to continually be upset by this. That's just one example of a very specific pattern. That you're like, this happens a lot. I don't feel good. To reflect on that. Why don't I feel good? But also, I know it's going to happen. It's just part of the job. Like, and flipping the perspective on it. I'm like, okay. So I would look at that for me. I'd be like, okay, this keeps happening. What is the problem? How do we change it so less people come? But also, I approach it in a way that isn't with a wall up, that isn't unhappy, that isn't resistant. And what else can I take from this? What else can I learn from this? Can I create something new out of this? You know, and literally everything you do in life. Like if you're in a meeting with 10 people, and you're normally sitting there, maybe you're paying attention, maybe you're not, and you're focusing on it. But to me, I'm like sitting in a meeting, and I'm like, how am I feeling? Not just what are they saying, is how am I feeling about what they're saying and how they're saying it. What are the other people feeling? Like, what are they reacting to? Who's reacting to what? Like, again, I'm always paying attention to everything going on, and that's habit. I've trained that in myself over years, and it's become second nature now. And it does take time. But just looking for the details in the moments and in the experiences, like that alone. If you're really if you're looking for value, if you're looking for opportunities to grow, it can change any part of your life.
Right. I like that. And that's something that can be done through meditation, journaling, all those little practical things. Do you have a thing that is your maybe it's more physical than it is internal where you're sitting in the meeting? Do you have a physical way of becoming more aware of what you're experiencing?
I've lots. And that's again a practice for me. Again, 10, 15 years ago, I had this sense that there are different things I could do to help regulate myself and help me navigate life and improve and whatnot. But I think that it would make more sense for me to develop 10 of these things so that in any situation, I've always got something to pull from because you can't use everything. But I say that, and yoga, you mentioned earlier, has certainly been like a really fundamental part of my development. I started 10 years ago, and it was just like a lightning shock in my body. The first experience I had where I felt this connection between my mind, body, and spirit that I'd never felt in my life, or at least not that I remembered. But specifically with yoga, the breathing aspect of yoga. So every movement in yoga is done to your breath, and same with meditation. You're kind of, when you start meditating, you're focusing on your breath because you're trying to get yourself into your body and into your awareness and into just the present moment, right? And I use yoga breath, breathing in literally every moment of my life at this point. I've trained myself to do this, where I might sit in a meeting, and if I'm at BOCC, right, and I'm about to go speaking, and I've to say my piece. If you look at me, you'll see my breathing has shifted, and just kind of really just centering myself in my body. And like I before I go to a meeting, I maybe will sit out in the car and I'll meditate for 5 minutes, just breathing and just lowering it all down and just really centering myself. And the core to all of that really is just being present. And that's the really the fundamental breakthrough for me is like, how many times in your life have someone told you to be present and you're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And so for me, I like to activate these ideas. And so being present to me is like, what does that actually mean? Right. And it means noticing things, paying attention, and learning from every moment, which is the slogan for Q, is learn from every moment, right? And
Right.
I like to try and activate these ideas without saying to people, be present. I'm saying, do this thing, and I'm not even going to tell them what the outcome is, but actually the outcome is that they are present. If you are paying attention, you're looking for the details. And when you're present, like, your day is so long. Like, my days, that's what a huge thing I've noticed in my life. 2 years ago, my days felt like they were just disappearing because I wasn't really as present, nowhere near as I am now, and I was just kind of like always focused on what was next and the things I needed to do and whatnot. but finding myself in this place, which took a lot of work, where I'm so present in every moment, really, and it's just such a, again, habit I've developed over time. I just, it just, not only is every moment bliss, because it like feels like an extended moment, like the whole of life at this point is like just one continuous moment, so I don't get lost in like what's coming, what's been. It's just like what's happening right now, how am I feeling about that, as a result of that, again, the presence, like my days just feel full days. Like when I wake up in the morning to the time I go to bed, every day I have achieved so much, and even just in my mind, let alone if it's something practical or you know, with Q or whatever. Again, being present and really paying attention, and activating that part of yourself, and seeing the, not just like really seeing the value in it, because I think that's one of the things with Q for me. I think there's a lot of wonderful ideas out there that I know from my experience can help anyone, but they're delivered to people in such a way that creates resistance, and creates confusion or intimidation. And so with Q, like really my ambition is to show people these ideas again through experience, without saying do this, get them to do it and show them what it feels like. And that being present part is core to everything, changes everything.
I think some of the things you talk about where, you know, you don't feel like you're running 100 miles an hour because you're accomplishing so much. I think people might hear that and they think, oh, well, I'll lose my edge if I'm not constantly chasing this thing or going off of that. But clearly that's not the case. I mean, you're working long hours, you're putting in a lot of work for your business, and, you know, it's noticeable you've already made an impact here in Buffalo, and you're just starting with this company in all reality, right? When did you start this?
I mean, 2 years I've been building, just over 2 years, yeah.
So that's not long for a company, and you know, you want it to be so much bigger than you. And clearly you haven't lost your edge throughout that, which is incredible. So kudos to you for that. For the audience, let them know where they can connect with you and where they can learn more about Q, all of that.
Sure. Hello, audience. Website is joinq.social, and Q is spelled QU, joinq.social. Instagram, join.q. And I'm on LinkedIn as well, David Coupland, if you want to connect. But I would encourage everyone, if you're watching this, to check out Qualia, my upcoming event, if you really want to get a sense of what Q is through experience and see the benefits of it and have some fun. 22nd of April, you can find that link on the Instagram and somewhere on the website too.
Yeah, definitely get connected with David. And one last question that I'm going to end all of these with, which is, if you had one piece of advice coming into this one shot at life, what would it be and why?
Practice. If you feel, if you say to yourself, I wish I could do this, just start bit by bit. It's not going to happen overnight. Practice, really be practicing, and additionally be curious. Be curious about what you're capable of. If you're not feeling good in life, if you're feeling like you would like to do more, if you'd like to experience more, ask yourself why and how. And these things don't happen overnight. It took me 10 years to get to this place, and really deliberate work. So just keep that in mind. Like, life's not about the big moments. It's about all the little moments in between that lead up to it. And that's where the practice comes in, and the curiosity. And that's what I'd focus on.
I love it. Thank you.
So welcome.